Welcome back to the Shine Within podcast. Amy Ballantyne, renowned for her inspiring TEDx talks, serves as an executive life coach and is a prominent figure in workplace wellness and emotional intelligence training. She has earned acclaim as a best-selling author and captivates audiences with her podcast, Power to the People Pleasers. In her work, Amy fosters transformative change, offering engaging, enlightening, and empowering insights to her clients and audiences alike. She is dedicated to her mission of motivating 10,000 individuals to acknowledge their intrinsic value, helping them to conquer daily burdens of overwhelm, stress, and pressure, thereby enabling them to lead the fulfilling lives they truly deserve. Amy, I'm so happy to talk with you today. I love your energy, and I really loved and enjoyed listening to your TEDx talk. So thank you so much for being on my show today. It's going to be fun.
Thank you so much for having me and for that lovely introduction. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Now, Amy, in your TEDx, you discuss mind traps that
Mm.
hinder personal and professional growth. Can you actually share a pivotal moment or a realization that led you to focus on this aspect of mental wellness?
Well, you know what? There's so many moments in my own life and working with many clients over the years of being in that reflective state and realizing that I was my own barrier. I was the one holding me back, and uh, I think it's interesting. It's not always the case for every client, but have been a number of moments where, based on how they're describing their life and the things that are coming up, others are standing in their own way as well. And that really was the inspiration to share some of the strategies uh, that came out of this realization and the recognition that part of the reason why I was standing in my own way was the belief that I wasn't enough and that I needed to do work around that in order to really start to see my own self as worthy and as capable and as smart enough, all these things. And this led me down the path to speaking about it.
Yes, I remember in third grade, I swear I had like this horrific teacher. Her name is Mrs. Samurai, by the way, if she's listening by chance. Um, I was afraid to talk. I
Mhm.
literally felt like I was going to say the wrong thing and everyone was going to laugh at me. And I really hated her system, her token system. And every time that we got the right answer, we could get a token from her desk to put it in our little thing. If we got the wrong answer, we would have to put a token on her desk to
Mhm.
eliminate with tokens. I hated that system and it made me hate myself because I felt like I wasn't worthy and I wasn't good enough. And so I was always fearful and I was always in competition, and my mind started playing games with me constantly. And it wasn't until my lovely fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Singer, I love her to death. She is my Facebook friend, and I hope she hears this message again because I will
Mhm.
always mention her and I love her dearly. That she showed me that, hey, it's okay if you make mistakes
Yeah.
because that's how we learn from them. And then that's okay. We don't need to compare ourselves to others because everybody has their unique gifts because we're all beautifully created by the divine. So there's no mistake when we're created by the divine. We are here for a reason. So yes.
Yes. And here to learn. I love what you said about that. We are very much on this journey to learn. And when we can look through that lens of failure is simply feedback.
Yes.
It's feedback to give us that message on, okay, maybe it's a new direction, new path, new thinking, new actions, new beliefs. It's giving us guidance on where to go
Right.
next.
Totally. Now, what are some common mind traps that you have actually
Mm.
identified in your years of coaching, and how do they typically manifest in people's daily lives?
Yeah, I think one of the big ones is mind reading,
Mm,
believing that you know what the other person's going to say or do, really catching yourself around that topic of, well, they will think this or they'll think that. How do you know? How do you
Right.
know, right? I mean, maybe some people have that skill, but many of us don't, and it's limiting us in many ways. Another one is all or nothing thinking. That's a big one. That's a big one when it comes to wellness, especially around eating. Uh, wow, it's a really big one around wellness. In that, I'm sure people have heard someone say, well, I ate one cookie, so I might as well eat the entire bag of cookies, right? And this is the all or nothing thing. Or if I can't go to the gym this one day, then I might as well just give it all up. So recognizing the patterns of thinking, and I also talk about the words that are coming out of our mouth are quite a big indicator of likely the thoughts that are in our head, with our thoughts being much worse than the words that are coming out of our mouth, right? Because we even filter what we're saying to others.
Mm.
But if we're hearing things like, this all or nothing, or I really am big on the should word, that idea that there is some notion of what is right, perfectionism, right? You should do this, you should do that, otherwise you should feel bad about it. Well, oh, there's the guilt, right? All of these messages that are being passed around between each of us and down to us, and then through us to the next generation as well. So being mindful of those words that we're passing on to others. uh, there's so many different pieces of, really, and the other one that I really think is a big one is catastrophizing.
Mm.
So it's seeing an event and then magnifying, predicting the worst possible outcome there. That can be a really big one for people. So it's this experience of having potentially a fight with a loved one and then thinking that this means that everything is ruined. You might as well throw the towel in. Overgeneralization, right? These broad, well, this means, I failed once, so I'm a failure forever, right? These are some of the different mind traps that are out there that are causing challenges for people.
Yeah, and I had actually maybe all of those before. I did for sure,
Hands
for sure,
up,
for
right?
sure. Yeah. Now, during your TEDx presentation, you mentioned combating like feelings of unworthiness. Now, I
Mhm.
know a lot about unworthiness. What strategies or tools have you actually found, I would say, like most effective in helping yourself and others overcome these like limiting beliefs?
Yes, I share two in the TEDx. The other ones that were really, really big for me, I'm highly kinesthetic, so the feelings, touch is big for me. And so one of the things that I did, which may or may not work for everyone, let's just keep this in mind, right? All of my strategies might not work for other people, but maybe they do. Uh, Temporary tattoos. I don't know if you're brave enough to have a tattoo. I'm not yet, but I put a temporary tattoo on right in a very visible area near my palm, not on the palm, but near my palm, that said, I am enough. And I got multiple copies of this. So as it started to wear off, I would put it on again. And this was a reminder to me, and to repeat the words, to feel into the words, to uh, look for examples in my day of proof to myself that yes, I am enough, right? And to begin to build that, right? We have so many thoughts that have built up over our lifetime that we've simply repeated it without questioning whether or not they were serving us or not. And so it was a practice for me of being reminded. And really, the reason I got this idea was because when I was growing up, the way that I would remember things was by writing on my hand.
That's right.
So I thought, well, if it can work to help me remember things, what is the thing I really need to remember? That I am enough.
That's
So why
right.
not put it on my hand, right? And I know that sounds really simple, but it's this reminding ourselves of the new thing that we want to think or the new thing that we want to do. It's a question I ask my clients all the time. They say, "Oh, I want to be better at this or I want to do that." And I always ask, "How are you going to remember to do that thing?" And it was the same for me. How was I going to remember that believing in myself and really stepping into feeling worthiness was something I wanted to focus my attention on? Putting it right where I couldn't miss it was helping me to focus my attention. The other one that I really like, and again, simple tool, is if you own a whiteboard marker and you own a mirror, like your bathroom, I wrote, "I am enough" on my bathroom mirror. And of course, people, when we talk with clients about this, they're like, "Oh gosh, but what will my kids think? I'm supposed to be strong. I'm supposed to be, I should be someone who doesn't need to say these things to myself." I'm like, okay, but what if we flip that on its head and say, what if you want to be the role model of being a real human who is still on their growth journey? Just because I say this to my kids all the time, just because I look a little bit older than you, and I am a bit older than you, and I've been around here a little bit longer, doesn't mean I'm done growing. It doesn't mean that I know everything. It means that I'm still on this journey. I'm a few steps ahead, but I'm still learning too. And so writing on the mirror was also me saying, there may be times in your life, children, where you are feeling something, and it's okay to be honest about it. And it's okay to be open and vulnerable about it. And quite honestly, if we can remind ourselves ongoing through the rest of our life of these positive messages, awesome. This is a powerful, good thing for us to be putting out there when there's so many um, reminders of negative energy around us, the comparison energy, and so on. So when you look in the mirror and you see the statement, "I am enough," and you look in your eyes and you say, "I am enough," and maybe you're getting in, yeah, out of the shower and you're like, "Okay, you know what? My body looks a little different than when I was 20 something. I'm enough. I'm enough." And actually beginning to love seeing yourself and saying these things and recognizing that this is the mindset that is what my heart desires for me to know. And I often say, it's a remembering that you are enough, because when you hang out with little brand new babies, they don't know either way. And then toddlers usually don't know either way either. They just know that they're enough until they don't, until they do not believe it anymore for whatever thing that knocked them off their path. And so I believe it's a remembering, and I was simply using some of these strategies to help me remember that as well.
Wow, there's so many angles I could take from what you just said. It was so beautifully said. The children. And I love that you brought up that we are the example. Like, yes, we're still learning every day. We don't have everything perfect. Okay. But I love how you also would put, like, write it down. I am enough on the mirror as a reminder. Because the more we start seeing it every day, every day, every day, it ingrains in our mind. And then we start feeling it. And once we really start feeling it, we believe it. And then actually, what miracle happens? We start embodying it more.
Yes.
And I think I want to use that idea for my kids because I have a teenager. I have a let's see, he's going to be 16 in July. There's an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, and one on the way. So it's like, so I talk about the kids. I think that's a beautiful idea because this is the time, like we were talking about this even earlier, like elementary school is like tough times for these kids. Like the school is like conditioning and then the so-called friends that they have and the comparison and this, that. I'm going to use that strategy and I'm going to go ahead and start writing it in their bathroom. I am enough. And then they're going to have to read it every day because
Yes.
they
Yeah.
are enough.
My funny little thing is I'm really a big fan of quotes and positive affirmation around. And so randomly I keep buying these different positive affirmations and I'm sticking them on the wall in their bathroom. Like, I'm just going to put this here, and maybe you'll read it a couple of times while you're brushing your teeth. Subtle
Totally.
positivity.
I love that idea. And I hope the listeners will embrace this and use it for themselves and their children because it's very important setting the example for the kids. Because they're our future. They're our future.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
looking at them as babies, I mean, like you said, they're not talking. Toddlers, they'll try to get their way. If they're like, if they're not, if they're hungry, they're going to cry and cry, cry until you feed them.
Yep.
So they have a voice. So what makes us think that we don't have a voice? You know, like we're nothing's changed. We're still the same.
Yeah.
We're just a little bit more aware.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, shifting over to your coaching now, you have 14 years of coaching experience. How have
Mhm.
you seen the industry evolve and what
Mm.
has remained constant in terms of people's quest for well-being?
Oh my goodness. How has the industry shifted? There is uh, a really beautiful piece. There were lots of hard things that came out of 2020 and those few years around that time, but I think there was a reminder of wellness that came out of this and a new level of awareness for people that they get to, not have to, need to, or should, but they get to take better care of themselves, that they get to focus some time. And we had a moment of pause and quiet and stillness and being with our families in a way that lots of people had never had before, our family included. And I think that really opened up people's eyes to even more this idea of coaching, of having someone hold them accountable to the actions that they want to take, to the new beliefs that they want to grow into, the behaviors that they want to grow into, that it's valuable to have somebody to ask them, how is it going? And you said you would do this thing, and did you do it? Right? um, there is an influx of more and more wellness and health coaches coming every day, which I'm excited for. I really believe that we live in an abundant world and there are many people to help. And if people feel called to be of service in that way, then there are many people to serve and to support in lifting each of us and all of us up to take better care of this most precious vehicle. Listen, I'm not talking about the Ferrari. I'm talking about the body is our most precious vehicle that allows us to walk this life right here and right now. And there's so many times where individuals run themselves dry. It's like you're pushing your Ferrari, except people aren't fueling their bodies like they're a Ferrari. They're fueling their bodies like they're an old jalopy, like the broken down jalopy, right? With what kind of fuel we're putting in. And I am generally speaking here, obviously, but I think there is a new energy, a new shift for people to be taking care of themselves, not just when they've had a big health crisis or health scare, but with this energy of, okay, I want to feel better. I want to move better. I want to have health long term. And that's always been one of the driving factors for me is this desire. Since I was a teen, I've had this vision in my mind, a very clear vision in my mind that one day I would be a mother. Woohoo, I accomplished that moment. I feel really grateful and blessed. I would be a mother. And then the vision of one day, and who knows if this will transpire or not, but of becoming a grandparent and then a great grandparent, but being in my own, what I can control well enough to be present, to be able and physically able to go bowling with my great grandkids. This is the vision. And with epigenetics, we know that our lifestyle now impacts us into our later years, right? So this is what fuels me really to help people to live their best life, to get moving some of these negative beliefs and things, because that impacts our well-being also. We've talked about it as a mental well-being piece, which is part of our overall well-being is in general, right? So are you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I know you mentioned that earlier, uh, connected to your well-being? So there have been a number of changes in the industry, and I'm so grateful that people trust me and open up to me, share their stories, and are vulnerable, and come for that support and compassion and accountability so that they can make those changes.
That's so awesome. And yeah, see, that's what helped me in my sobriety journey is my mentor slash coach slash
Hmm.
fitness trainer. So originally I was seeking what I needed at the time and earlier in my sobriety was physical activity. I wanted this good, healthy distraction. And so I signed up for Orange Theory. I was at 5 a.m.er, I'm like, I want to wake up early, but I wanted to do that. So I know, and not everyone's a 5 a.m.er, and that's okay. But I really wanted to do that. And I started feeling much better. And then I'm like, I want to start practicing yoga, like those yoga movements. And so I can be more flexible and more fluid in my body. And one of my friends, she's the one who said, hey, I know a girl, she's an expert in yoga. You should check her out. Well, I guess it was a perfect moment because she had just put together her mentorship program for women. And I mean, like I was mentioning to you before, she was not a recovery alcohol sobriety coach. She was just a mindset coach for women. And she gave me these daily videos through email of a practice for the day. So first one was schedule, make your schedule, like have a schedule. And
Yeah.
then we talked about habits and doing this and that. So I started practicing and practicing, practicing. And that's what really built like who I am today from her. So I love coaches. They are the best.
Amazing.
They've helped me much more than therapists have. Not
Mm.
hating on therapists. I know there's some good therapists. This is just my personal experience that I've had. And I've had many therapists, many counselors, many this, everything. I've done everything, but nothing seemed to work. And it wasn't until I had that accountability coach, that cheerleader side next to you, rooting you on, that then I started seeing results. So yes,
Amazing.
power to the coaches.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy to hear that that happened for you.
Yeah,
That's wonderful.
yeah, yeah. So in your podcast, Power to the People Pleasers, what are some key themes or insights you aim to share, and what inspired you to start this particular podcast?
Power to the people pleasers. Yes. It's an empowerment podcast for those of us who put ourselves last and have a bit of trouble with boundaries. And so, listen, I am a recovering people pleaser,
I'm sorry, there's
very
a
much
light
so.
in my eye. I'm like shining right now.
You are literally shining. It's all good. It's all good. For people who
uh,
can't see you, it
ex-
is brilliant. You
I
are
was
shining
like,
within.
the sun literally is
Truly.
on my face. Okay.
Yes.
So I
So,
apologize. Go ahead.
I I was wanting to start a podcast, and in talking to the coach that I was working with at the time, we uncovered that out of all the clients that I was working with at that particular moment, one of the main threads that was running as a commonality through all of them was this people pleasing energy and the connection of not feeling worthy and enough. And so that really was an aha moment for me as I was sharing all of the people that was supporting and knowing my own journey. It felt aligned as a message that I could speak to authentically, and that for anybody who knows me closely, I I do say yes a lot. I do. And I'm much better at it now. I am much better at having boundaries and saying no more often. It's interesting, for a long, long time in my life, I really believed that saying yes was was on purpose so that I could get the most out of life. That was my belief. I wanted to experience life in a big way and try new things and be a part of all these different things, and that worked for me in university, in high school. It really worked. That mindset truly gave me a beautiful foundation. It actually started to be a problem. It shifted to being a problem for me when I was running myself essentially dry. The cup was dry. There was no energy left for me. There was no time for me. I was resentful of having said yes, and something needed to change, right? So I feel very grateful that people are open to sharing their stories around people pleasing, and there's been so many really cool angles that I never would have ever considered or thought about if it hadn't have been for really cool guests. And quite honestly, I'm excited for the episode with you to come out because it had never dawned on me that there's a link between sobriety and people pleasing, or alcoholism and people. It never dawned on me because that's not part of my story. So it's been a really um so beautiful to meet such amazing humans that are coming together because of this experience of podcasting. I'm truly grateful.
Yes, I've enjoyed watching so many of your episodes on YouTube, and then I'm just like I get inspired by all these amazing women just talking about
Very cool.
how they were people pleasers and where they're at now and how they've overcome that challenge, because I was a yes ma'am, yes man, to
Yeah.
everybody. I and it was affecting my health. Literally, I was like,
Mhm.
oh man. Even to my children, I'd be like, yes, you can have that toy. Yes, you can do this. Yeah. I had to set boundaries. And I noticed once I set boundaries, then the people that were always asking me to do stuff for them, they slowly dissolved out of my life. And I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
perfect. Because they weren't supposed to be in there in the first place. So,
Yeah.
and the children are learning how to share, how to repurpose their toys, how to give their toys away if they want to earn a toy, you know. So yeah,
Hmm.
and so we have a good system at home here, which the kids are
So
happy.
awesome. So awesome.
Yeah. Now, you do speaking for like corporations, right?
Yeah, I
Okay, yeah,
do.
that's awesome. And I have actually some people that you should be in contact with that they have podcasts too, and you'd be a great guest.
I would love that. Thank
Yeah, of
you.
course. What challenges do you observe in fostering well-being within the workplace, and how do you
Mm.
tailor your message to address these specific environments?
Yeah. I would say one of the challenges for the workplace is individuals being overworked, right? Overworked and having a lot of stress. There are opportunities. The way that I like to shift thinking is to speak with the stakeholder, the main person, the organizer, who usually is the manager or the boss or somebody who influences the team, to get their take on where could better boundaries happen. So I had a client, I love this story, really, I think hits home for me. I had a client who, at the very beginning of our work, she said, I have to, and listen to some of the words, I have to get on my computer. She was a COVID time. I have to get on my computer by 7 a.m. to start work, and I can't get off until 8 p.m. until every single other person is done. And
Mm.
so we started digging into this. And anytime I hear can't, shouldn't, have to, need to, won't, like any of these words, I go, "Ooh, doo, doo," the little radar turns on, and I will ask questions about that to really uncover, the real experience for what's happening for this person. And it turns out that the expectations were not clear. The boundaries were not clear. And she had made an assumption that this was what was expected of her. And when she started to realize, okay, there's some areas for improved communication around these expectations, around boundaries, she started to take back some of the time, realizing that nobody else was turning on their computer and starting to work at 7 a.m. and getting clarification from her boss. This was not an expectation. It's very kind of her, and it's very nice to see her working that way. However, it wasn't expected. And so I really like to get that insight into where that particular company or that particular team feels they can help shift and help people improve their well-being. I had one session that was really, really powerful where I don't know, there were 75 people or something in the room, and the head guy is the head person who everyone reported to at the end of the day was like interrupted what I was saying and said, like, listen, Amy, I gotta say something here. And he's like, you need to take a lunch break. I want you to take a lunch, because people were feeling like with all of the things that they have to accomplish in the day, they were skipping lunch, they were skipping their breaks. And he said, no more. I'm empowering you. I'm inspiring. I'm inviting you to take the lunch break. Take the lunch break, right? And sometimes we just need that reminder that this is okay to do the thing that we know, and I hate using the word should, but like having your lunch is the fuel to keep the vehicle, the machine, the energy, the enthusiasm, the passion, the knowledge, the brain function. It is what helps you be you to the best level. And so it was so awesome to be in that room and to feel the energy and almost like this collective, almost a sigh of yes. And unfortunately, we are looking for that permission to do the thing that we are supposed to be doing anyway in taking the lunch break, right? But it was so awesome to see that leader take that opportunity to really breathe wellness, empowerment into the team, that it is important to take time for yourself and to refuel and to use that time. So the long-winded version of what do I do? I bring a lot of energy. I bring a lot of spunk. I'm usually bouncing around the room. I call it, or in a webinar, I'm quite animated in online as well, but I love to call it edutainment a little bit. I want people to remember how they're feeling in that webinar and to take one action.
Mm.
To take one action. So I really aim to layer the messaging in there of, I'm not suggesting that you go make a 20-point list for yourself, because I don't believe that that is setting you up for success. Setting you up for success is you really picking one, maybe two things that you are 100% committing to, and rolling with that and making it really simple, making really fun and clear for people to understand some of these. And I don't love the word hack, but that's all the rage, that word, right? So the hacks to helping us in our wellness, I just call them practical tips, but uh, you could call them hacks. So people actually leave there going, okay, this is the one thing I'm going to do. And then I just heard from someone today from a webinar, I don't know, 2.5 years ago. Amy, I'm still doing that thing you talked about in that very first webinar. And that makes me super pumped up, because it means that I'm delivering something that people feel excited about and they remember and they're actually taking action on. And how often does that happen at the end of a training?
I know, right? Action is so important. Oh,
Mhm.
yes. And yeah, I'm even guilty, like, because I do my work at home. And I need to make sure that I don't eat my lunch in front of my computer, even though I'm at
Mhm.
home. I literally have to remove myself, go downstairs,
Yeah.
make my lunch, sit down at the table, and just take a break and eat.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I've found it helpful to that, and it useful, not useful, is either listening to a podcast during that time that you're really looking
Yeah.
forward to, or if there's a funny show, or giving yourself the moment of watching funny cat videos, like something
Oh,
somewhat entertaining that you're like, I can take the 10 minutes or whatever, instead of sitting at your desk and shoving it in your face, right? Going and saying, while I eat, I'm going to watch something that's funny or entertaining or
yeah.
useful that you can look forward to. And then you'll find you'll take those lunch breaks a little bit more frequently because you've put that reward attached to it as well.
It's amazing. I love that. Yeah. Cat videos, especially, those are always fun and entertaining.
So funny, right? Yeah.
It's funny because my kids will go like, "Oh, can we put the cat videos on the big screen TV?" Like, "Okay, let's go ahead, go ahead." And they're just
Yeah.
laughing, having a Good old time.
Yes.
Now, Amy, where can our listeners go ahead and listen to your TEDx talks, find you online, follow you on social media, all that good stuff?
Amazing. Yes. So the TEDx video is on YouTube. TEDx Amy Ballantyne. You can find it there, or it's attached to one of my playlists as well, the speaking playlist. You can also find me on Instagram. I love for people to connect with me there. I've got my coaching website, Ballantyne Coaching, amyballantyne.com as well, and LinkedIn. I mean, there's so many places. Wherever you are, I probably am. So, connect where it feels aligned for you to do so.
That's awesome. And I'll have everything in the show notes and including your new mindset workbook. Looking
Yeah.
forward to that one there. And
Yes.
also looking ahead, what future projects or initiatives are you excited about? And how do you plan to continue evolving your message? Because I know you want to get to 10,000 individuals.
Yeah. Yes, so oh my goodness, there's so many things. I am branching, I'm doing more work in the emotional intelligence side of things, and the part that gets me really jazzed up about that is the component around self-awareness,
Mhm.
and that's the connection for people really connecting into their worthiness and feeling enough, and their self-awareness of how are they treating themselves, how are they showing up, all of that. There's so many links there in the emotional intelligence side with assessments and trainings. It's a very exciting time. I'm pumped about that, and I'm really excited too because I've landed my second TEDx, and that will be happening in June. So, doing the preparations for that as well. So, continuing to challenge myself towards growth and looking for new ways to spread the message and help more people.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on my show today. Is there any last words or thoughts you'd like to say?
I would just say, like, breathe into this knowing that you are enough. Breathe
Yeah.
into it. Remind yourself that.
I love the breathing too.
Mhm.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you.